Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, presented by the Cincinnati Business Courier, cosmetic procedures are more common than you may think. We'll tell you about the work your friends, your coworkers, maybe even you are having done. Bidding farewell to a local political icon. And a new place to satisfy your sweet tooth in OTR. U.S. Bank Business Watch next. Good morning. Welcome to U.S. Bank Business Watch. I'm Brian Patrick. On the front page of this week's Business Courier, working women in Greater Cincinnati are making plastic surgery all the rage. Our front page centerpiece, the price of beauty. Permanent makeup, Botox injections, laser hair removal, eyelid lifts, facelifts, increasingly popular with women in Greater Cincinnati who want to look their best in the workplace. That's according to local doctors and nurses who perform these procedures. They say non-surgical cosmetic procedures that hide wrinkles or make a face appear fuller for 6 months to a year are way up among people who really want to look more how they feel.
My facial features may not match how I feel, so I want to look younger in that respect to match my healthy lifestyle.
A typical client would be those who are seeking permanent makeup when they're in sales positions, those who do a lot of speaking engagements for corporations or companies, professionals in the entertainment field.
Interest in cosmetic procedures is also on the rise nationally. According to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, the number of procedures performed was up 5% last year for both women and men. Well, the healthcare reporter for the Business Courier, Barrett Brunsman's been covering all the fine lines and wrinkles of this story. Barrett joins our Business Watch producer, Kelly Leon, with more about what he found. Barrett and Kelly?
Thank you, Brian. Barrett, thanks for being here. It's your first time with us.
My pleasure,
Welcome
Kelly.
to the Business Courier.
Thank you.
Let's first talk about the cost. The name of the article is The Price of Beauty. How much are these procedures?
Kelly, the procedures can range from hundreds of dollars for something like a Botox injection to more than $6,000 for a facelift. It's important to keep in mind when you're talking surgical procedures, more than $11 billion was spent by Americans on such procedures last year. To put that in some perspective, the gross domestic product of Armenia was $10 billion last year. So a lot of money is going into these procedures. The typical amounts for such a facelift and so forth, $6,000, that's just the doctor's fees. That doesn't include anesthesia, operating room use, and related expenses. So they can be expensive.
And you also talk in the article about finding a qualified person to do this. Because it's so popular, there's a lot of folks out there saying, hey, come to me, I can do this for you. How do you find the right person and make sure they're qualified?
The doctors and nurses I spoke to stress that plastic surgeons have a great deal of expertise in this area. But because this is such a lucrative business now, there are a lot of folks who are not necessarily experts getting into these non-surgical cosmetic procedures. Even dentists are getting involved in Botox injections, which are basically small needles pressed into your face to relax your muscles so that the wrinkles don't show. You need to talk to a lot of folks who've gone through these procedures to tell them whether they were satisfied with the work or not. But there are risks involved if something is not done properly. For instance, a Botox injection too close to the eyes could relax the muscles there. You might end up with double vision.
And this is mostly women doing this. What about men?
Women account for about 91% of the more than 14 million cosmetic procedures last year. In Cincinnati, it's a little higher than the 9%. Some of the doctors I spoke to said men are about 20% of their patients. That includes a lot of non-surgical procedures, but also hair transplants, although I can't imagine why a man would need such a thing.
I can't either. That's ridiculous. And just a note, Barrett and I went to grade school together, and we are not ready for any of these procedures. We're just not old enough for this.
Kelly, I mean, it's been, what, about 15 years since we graduated from St. Antoninus Grade School in Coverdale.
St. Antoninus on the west side, so yeah. Barrett, great reuniting with you. and hopefully we'll see you again here on Business Watch.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate it.
Brian, back to you.
Yeah, now both of you need to go to confession. In a major shift in his position, Cincinnati Mayor John Cranley said late last week that he will now support completing the first phase of the streetcar project. But here's the catch. He'll support it only if all of the annual operating costs for the next 3 decades are covered by fares, advertising, and donations from the private sector. Cranley confirmed that major players in Cincinnati, including corporations and foundations, are now talking about ways to cover the operating costs, estimated to be up to $4.5 million a year before fares are factored in. The mayor said he met with streetcar supporters and told them he is willing to help them come up with the operating money.
If the business community can take that risk for us, we're willing to meet them halfway by spending the additional capital dollars to complete the first phase.
The federal government has given the city a deadline of December 19th to restart the project, or the feds will pull $45 million in pledged grant funds for it. Cranley was joined at a news conference last week by Councilman Kevin Flynn, who indicated he would support restarting the project if the operating costs can be taken off the city's books. Well, the former Ohio House Majority Leader and the patriarch of a local political dynasty died Tuesday morning. He was 82. William Mallory Sr. was the first African-American House Majority Leader and the longest-serving Majority Leader in Ohio's history, as well as the longest-serving Ohio representative from Hamilton County. Former Cincinnati Mayor Mark Mallory and his siblings, including State Representative Dale Mallory and Judge William Mallory Jr., gathered at their parents' West End home to make the announcement and pay tribute to their father.
It is with a heavy heart that I come before you today to announce the passing of my father, William L. Mallory Sr.
Mayor Mallory called his father's passing very peaceful. From the time he was elected to the House in 1966 until retiring in 1994, Mallory Sr. sponsored more than 600 pieces of legislation, including the creation of a statewide homeless shelter law and a drug prevention program that has been used as a model across the country. Legislation that Mallory worked on also helped finance the Riverfront Stadium and Fountain Square South projects. Well, the Banks has a new project chief. Phil Beck took over for John Dietrich, who is now project executive for Cincinnati Streetcar Project. Beck is a 27-year veteran in construction and project management and a 14-year veteran of the Navy Civil Engineering Corps. He arrived in Cincinnati in 2000. He's worked on nearly all of downtown's major infrastructure projects, including 2 years on Phase 1 of the Banks.
Prior to that, spending 3.5 years working as management oversight for Great American Ballpark, and as well as more recently working on the Riverfront Park, specifically the Carousel Building project. Coming back to the Banks project and seeing this project through to completion is a tremendous honor, and I'm very excited to be part of the team.
Beck says the vision for the Banks remains the same. It includes more office space in the second phase. Filling that space has been a challenge and will remain so for Beck. Currently, there are no office tenants at the bank. A high-profile lawyer critical of tax breaks for Cincinnati companies has apologized for denying in news reports that he sought a tax break for his own business. Chris Vinny wrote in an email, "I did request that the township grant me that credit, and I presently do intend to accept it if offered." The email was sent to the law director of Claremont County's Union Township. Finney asked for at least a 10% rebate on the bulk of a 1% earnings tax that he and his employees will pay when he opens Finney Law Firm LLC January 1st. Finney is chief lawyer for the Coast, the coalition opposed to additional spending and taxes. Coast criticized an October tax break for pure romance when that company sought a deal to move its office from Claremont County to Cincinnati. Well, did you know one of the costliest areas of health care is hospitalization for seniors who forget to take their medicine? It's a $360 billion issue. A Cincinnati startup is addressing that with a device that makes it easier to remind seniors when to take their pills and get them help when they forget. MetaCheck is a tablet-style touchscreen device that beeps when it's time for a senior to take medicine. It will also warn users if drugs prescribed by different doctors could interact in their system, producing harmful reactions.
We currently have our product in beta testing in 2 area locations, and we're going to be offering the product to the public in the second part of 2014.
Apps that provide similar reminders are available for Android phones and iPhones and iPads, but only 3% of seniors over age 75 reportedly use these devices that are popular with most of us. The MetaCheck is designed to be simple to use. You just plug it in and it works. There is a new place to eat in Northside. Bistro Grace has opened in the original home of Boca. The restaurant, owned by Suzanne McGarry, is a bistro concept with a full bar, focusing on craft beer and wine by the glass.
You know, the space was the right size. Certainly didn't want a large restaurant, didn't want a teeny restaurant. It was the right size. It has parking. It's easy to get to. And you know what? It's had some great history. This is where Boca started, and, you know, karma.
McGarry renovated the building on Hamilton Avenue and reconfigured some of that space. The latest retailer in Over the Rhine, Sweet Petite Desserts, is now open and serving up tempting goodies. I'm going to make you hungry here. What started as Taryn Kiddebrew's online dessert shop, Sweet Petite is now operating a 750-square-foot retail store at 14th and Race.
The bulk of my business is events, and so I needed commercial space to not only bake and house all of those treats, but then also people who have followed me over the years wanted to be able to come in and actually purchase many desserts daily, and so now we're able to offer that.
Yeah, they offer bite-sized goodies like cake pops, red velvet bites, key lime bars, double chocolate brownies, macaroons, and all sorts of chocolate-covered treats, all made from scratch. They look good. I'm sure they taste good. Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, new tech jobs heading to Covington. And is Cincinnati becoming a hockey mecca? Here's some news you may have missed if you're not reading the Business Courier online every day or following us on Twitter and Facebook. Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear was in Covington last week with Economic Development Corporation Triad to welcome 2 informatics companies that plan to bring nearly 350 jobs to Covington over the next 3 years. The companies are Clear Measures and Accelerated Learning Dynamics. Beshear said the investments show Kentucky is an innovative and exciting place for startups and information technology businesses. American Financial Group now among companies offering employee benefits to same-sex spouses. American Financial is headed by co-CEOs Carl Lindner III and Craig Lindner. The recent change resulted from last summer's Supreme Court case that struck down part of the Defense of Marriage Act. That decision allowed same-sex married couples the same rights as opposite-sex spouses. A national survey shows 87% of large employers now offer benefits to same-sex partners. Cincinnati won its bid to host the March 2016 NCAA Division I Men's Ice Hockey Championship Midwest Regional at U.S. Bank Arena. The event will have more than 850 room nights contracted for participants and officials and will bring thousands of spectators and a lot of money to the city. The Greater Cincinnati Sports Corporation, an affiliate of the Cincinnati USA Convention and Visitors Bureau, and U.S. Bank Arena are teaming with Miami University, the host school. It will be the second time in 3 years that U.S. Bank Arena and Miami will host the Men's Regional Hockey Championships. They're also hosting the 2014 event. That's coming up March 28th through the 30th. Reds Fest attendance way down, more than a third this year. The reason was bad weather. The snow last week kept fans away from the annual 2-day festival. A little more than 14,000 fans walked through the turnstiles at the Duke Energy Convention Center. That compares to 22,000 plus last year. Of course, more autograph opportunities for those who did make it through the snow and get there. What do stocks as diverse as Papa John's, Whole Foods, and Colgate have in common? All have stock splits in 2013. Joining us in this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360, Mike Denneman, Vice President and Senior Portfolio Manager for U.S. Bank. He's going to give us some insight on these stock splits. Mike, good to have you back with us.
Good morning, Brian.
So we have had these high-profile stock splits in addition to the ones we just mentioned, MasterCard also this year. First of all, what is a stock split and what is it telling us about the market?
Sure. So a stock split is when a company decides to adjust the number of shares outstanding and then subsequently the price of those shares. So the board will decide on a numerical factor, most often 2 for 1, and then apply that to the shares outstanding. So if you're an investor, you'll have twice as many shares, but at half the price.
So if you have shares at 200 and they split, you have 2 shares at 100.
Correct.
That's probably oversimplified. What does that tell us about the market, though? What's going on with these?
Well, naturally, if you're going to split your price, you're going to have a high price to begin with.
That's true.
So we've seen the number of splits occurring actually down in recent years, probably due to the turmoil in the market. But now that we're through 2013, we've had some record levels in the market. We're probably seeing a lot of companies thinking about the fact they're sitting at record high prices. That might be a good catalyst to see more stock splits.
What advantage is it for a corporation to split their stock, and why wouldn't they? I look at Apple, it's been above $500 a share. Why wouldn't they split?
Sure. So, well, if you think about what advantage to the investor there might be, it's hard to come up with a tangible effect there. Whether you have 5 shares worth $10 a piece or 10 shares worth $5 a piece, to the investor, the net is the same.
Yeah, it seems like a draw.
So for the company, the thought process is that perhaps more reasonably priced stocks would be a bigger draw for the average investor. So if you have a stock trading at 100, investors maybe shy away. If it's trading at 50, that might be more appealing. So whether that's true or not, that's hard to say. It seems psychological in nature.
It is psychological. But it seems to make sense.
It seems to make sense. And so while stock splits 10, 20 years ago very common, these days we see, as you mentioned, a lot of stocks that are trading in triple digits, and that's relatively rare. Not to say that splits aren't in the works, but for now they seem content to have those high share prices.
Of course, investors want to make money. That's why we invest. Is there any opportunity to make money due to these stock splits? Is there any way to play that?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Of course, there have been numerous studies that have looked into stock splits and to see if there's additional returns you could gain by investing in stocks that are about to split or have just recently split. And while the answers are inconclusive, they seem to suggest that there's not a whole lot of additional return that can be gained by investing in these stocks simply for the split. Now remember, these are stocks that have high share prices anyway, so any additional gain following the split is likely attributable to that previous momentum rather than the split itself. So it's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing, it seems more psychological. It certainly keeps a company's name in the headlines, and that's always a good thing. So
we've learned a great deal this morning. I know I have. I've heard about these stock splits, and now I have a better understanding. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
We appreciate you and U.S. Bank. Still to come on U.S. Bank Business Watch, a community promise for our littlest residents and our future leaders. And congratulations this morning to Ernie DeMolanta, President and Senior Marketing Consultant of DeMolanta Design Group and the founder of In-N-Out Marketing, another of our 40 Under 40 honorees. Thanks a lot for being with us today on our Business Insight, the Cincinnati Preschool Promise. The importance and impacts of early childhood education and development are well known. A leadership Cincinnati team called the Preschool Promise is partnering with United Way's Success by 6 and the Strive Partnership to take on this challenge on behalf of our local children. Business Courier publisher Jamie Smith is in our studio with Cheryl Rose, Senior Vice President for Wealth Management for PNC Bank and one of the Leadership Cincinnati members behind this initiative. Cheryl and Jamie?
Thanks, Brian. Cheryl, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
As it says, the Leadership Class 36 project, best class in leadership Cincinnati history, right? Tell us a little bit about what the project is.
Well, 8 of my partners and I from our class joined together around wanting to do a project around quality preschool and creating more access to kids in the city of Cincinnati. And so through that, we created what's called the Preschool Promise Pledge, and we got cross-sector support signing the pledge across the spectrum. Mayor Cranley was the first to sign the pledge, incidentally. Business community, faith-based community, all supporting this cross-sector initiative to provide quality preschool to all 3- and 4-year-olds in the city of Cincinnati.
It's incredible. And when you say support, you don't just mean, hey, I support the project. You've had a lot of financial support that's come from this community.
The outpouring of community support and the clear community will that exists to make this happen has just been overwhelming. We have had incredible generosity coming our way. And I think it's because everyone understands that 90% of a child's brain development happens before age 6. And we know that that's critical for that child to have success in school. And while we can call this a moral imperative, the real story is an economic development story. We have to create a solid talent pipeline in Cincinnati. And we know that competitively, it's crucial that we do that. So that has to happen prior to the child being 6 years old.
Talk specifically about the little kid gig. I know that's a big part of the project.
So a piece of the project was created by my friend Jennifer Dower on our team with Children's Hospital. And the little kid gig is a spin off of the big pig gig. And the concept she came up with was to create a public advocacy program where we would do little pop-up installations of chairs, like preschool-sized chairs around the community to raise awareness about the importance of quality preschool. And through the Greater Cincinnati Foundation's Big Idea Challenge, we were absolutely thrilled to be the grand prize winner for the Little Kid Gig, and we won a $50,000 grant to fund the project. We're thrilled.
It's amazing. We could talk about this project all day. There's so many aspects of it. But I know there's a new leadership class this year, and they have a project team that's going to take this on and keep it moving.
You know it. Class 37 has graciously accepted the challenge of implementing the Little Kid Gig, and we're absolutely thrilled.
They have big shoes to fill, and I know they'll do well. But thanks for getting this project started. Thanks for being here today to talk about the project.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Cheryl. Brian, back to you.
Cheryl and Jamie, the Little Kid Gig. Gotta love it. Thanks for joining us this morning for U.S. Bank Business Watch. We'll be back next Sunday and every Sunday morning, 6:30 for you early risers here on Local 12. If you sleep in, you can catch us 10 a.m. on the CW. For more business news all week long, be sure to visit the Business Courier online. You can sign up for our daily emails, and you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Our address, CincinnatiBusinessCourier.com. For all of us at U.S. Bank Business Watch, I'm Brian Patrick. Have a great Sunday and a good week.